Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today we have Jason Piazza. I'm learning my Italian. So Jason, it's great to have you. I know that you grew up in the Costa Mesa area and stayed there, but you are now an expert in real estate, particularly in the cannabis world. So I'm very intrigued by understanding that world and what's going on with it today. So great to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, Bruce.
So how did you grew up in Costa Mesa and then you went to UCLA? How did you end up in the cannabis world?
Well, I was a commercial real estate generalist starting around 2006, 2007, representing buyers and sellers and tenants and landlords in all of the asset classes. My focus was on Orange County, and that kind of spread out a little bit to areas outside of Orange County. But that was my specialty, was just Orange County, whatever I could get my hands on. I did not work for a larger shop. I was just a one-man band.
Oh,
And it was the recession, right? And I was
yeah.
working on really small deals, as small as 500 square feet, learning commercial real estate as I went. Nobody else would work with these clients, and my clientele base grew as the economy improved. And I was busy when other agents weren't during the recession. I'm making 20, 30 grand a year at that level is you got to do a lot of deals, right? So I was
Yeah,
doing
right.
a lot of deals. And then 2010, 2011, 2012, deals started getting bigger and bigger and bigger as clients were coming back to me. And I just kept at it. And I love commercial real estate. I was raised in a real estate family, but
Mm.
also raised by marijuana people,
Oh,
people who were smoking when I was a kid and going to
wow.
school in the 80s, being told that cannabis was the devil's lettuce and a gateway drug, and these were
Huh.
awful people. And then I would go home to these very successful people. You know, my mother was a single working real estate executive. My uncle was a very renowned attorney in the state of California. My father was a naval pilot and a very experienced electrician who was doing work all over San Diego for some really big companies. And so, I just didn't make any sense what they were saying. And so I always saw an issue there. And to be honest, Bruce, I probably started smoking too young, not because my family gave it to me, but just because
Yeah.
it was the 80s.
Yeah.
But then when
Available.
yeah, it was available. I could find it.
Yeah.
It was all very bad weed at the time. Uh, but fast forward to 2016, 2017, after 10, 11 years of working as a generalist and California went recreational, I thought, hey, now I've got an opportunity to specialize. I can have a niche. So we created WeCann. I teamed up with somebody who had just sold their dispensary. Somebody who's my business partner now. He's our broker of record and the president of our company, my business partner, Milad. Um, and he was doing licensing and some public advocacy, and he needed someone to do the real estate side.
Oh, wow.
And so we teamed up. WeCann was born. We started farming properties in Santa Ana and Long Beach, mapping out green zones and databasing ownership contact info. And I just did what I've been doing for all the years prior, trying to get deals done.
Yeah. And all of a sudden it wasn't, 30,000 a year. It was probably much better than that.
Yeah, my income really started growing by 2010, 2011, 2012, and in those years. But then in 2017, when it was the first full year of with WeCann, I took a big hit because my pipeline just kind of like evaporated.
Oh, wow.
I had my third child that year too. It was a very interesting year because he was a NICU baby. So I was
Oh, wow.
literally farming for WeCann in Long Beach and Santa Ana from the NICU at Chalk
Oh,
here in Orange County. It was an interesting time, but I picked up listings. Uh, Anyways, yeah, the ensuing years in 18 and 19 and 20 and 21, income was very strong. So a lot of deal flow was getting done. As a generalist coming into cannabis, I found that experience was really important. The analogy I made at the time, which I still make, but uh, you know, doing a cannabis real estate lease is like doing a high-end restaurant lease with an institutional landlord like the Irvine Company or Regis or something. But instead of doing it with one of those experienced retail landlords, you're doing it with a mom and pop, oftentimes an industrial landlord, and they just don't understand the concept of entitlements, how long it's going to take with an expensive build out, and why you got to give concessions when the rent is high, you know, because we were looking
Right.
at rental rates in the early years of cannabis that were to like 100% premium, like double the rent, all the way up to like
Oh,
three,
wow.
400%
Wow.
in some
Well,
cases.
I actually tried to do a cannabis deal up here in um, the South City, and they were willing to pay any price almost to get in, in the right location and the right distance from the airport and all these different factors. And
Mhm.
so it was quite amazing. The landlord still didn't go for it, but it was an interesting process to go through. So
Yes.
as you became a cannabis expert, can you explain the four different levels there are of getting a cannabis license for those listening?
Like the type of licenses that
Yeah.
exist?
Yeah.
Sure. And there's like subcategories of each, but on just basic level, there's cultivation, licensure, and you can have indoor and outdoor in certain levels of each.
Oh,
There's manufacturing, and there's levels of manufacturing, whether it's volatile extraction, non-volatile extraction. There's an infusion license as well. So there's different levels there. There's distribution, very plain and simple, although there is also a transportation license, but distribution, kind of the logistics and getting it from place to place. And
okay.
of course, there's the sales, which could be retail or delivery. And then the last, of course, being the testing lab. And, the folks that own testing labs cannot have any ownership in any other license.
Oh, okay.
You that that's not always the case, right? There are individuals that own labs that also own other license types, but they can't do third-party testing and they can't do testing that takes their product to market. But they can do R&D for their own product to make sure that when they send it to a testing lab, they're going to get results that'll take it to market. So we see
Wow.
that occasionally. Um, the testing lab thing is a very niche part of a niche industry, and they're very difficult deals to get done.
Sounds like it. Okay. So is the market now sort of saturated? Because you did say earlier that now the transition is going more towards mergers and acquisitions and sales of people that already have locations.
Yeah, saturation's a big problem. The
Mm.
California cannabis market is not in a good place. I mean,
Uh,
it's if you didn't know that, if any of your listeners didn't know that, it is important to understand that California cannabis is in a really bad spot. My income is reflective of that because it's hard to get deals done. But yes, we are in an M&A phase. We have been for several years. Very little real estate procurement is being done, the kind of real estate procurement we did to start the business in 16, 17, 18. Because, there's no need for more cultivation. There's no need for more manufacturing or distribution or labs. Occasionally, there's a city will open up for new retail, right?
oh,
So there will
wow.
be, there are, I should say, some few opportunities here and there to originate a new retail license. But largely, what's happening is the industry is trading assets amongst itself. There are a lot of receiverships that are happening in this
Oh,
industry. We get some
wow.
of those listings, not as many as we'd like. We are looking at some right now, which we expect to get. But the receiverships, every 6 months in California, there's another big operator that is in receivership. It was State House, which, big dispensary up in the Oakland area, Harborside,
Mhm.
was bought out by State House, and then that group went into receivership last year.
Oh, wow.
Um, this year it was Gold Flora. Before State House was High Times, the magazine, which also owned a lot of licenses.
Oh, wow.
And before that, and before that, and before that. And so, it's a trying time. The values of these businesses in 2017, 2018, if you had won a retail license in 17 or 18, you could sell that paper before even having gotten your plans approved.
Oh,
for
wow.
like 3 million.
Whoa.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
Now that same paper is worth a couple 100,000 if you're lucky.
Wow. Okay. So completely different.
Completely different.
Well, I know locally here in San Mateo in the Bay Area, I don't think San Mateo was terribly fond of taking any cannabis folks in, and I suspect there are a bunch of municipalities that were in kind of the same mode. So that has kind of come and gone, it sounds like.
So that's a big problem. So we have in California what I've been calling cannabis deserts, much like we have food deserts.
Ah,
I
okay.
really believe firmly that not all, but some of the California cannabis industry's ills, current ills, could have been served if the state were to say to the municipalities, hey, guys, cannabis is here. It's always been here.
Yeah.
Had so many years to license so many retail storefronts per X amount of people in your city. And if you don't have it done, then we're going to find the heck out of you. And if they'd have done that, while also maybe cracking down on the illegal market and things of that nature,
Mm.
we'd have a much healthier market. But part of the issue that is plaguing this industry is a massive oversupply of product. And we're seeing a
Ah.
second run of this. So back in 2023, I think it was, or maybe 22, I think 23, there was thousands of state level cultivation licenses that didn't renew. And they didn't renew because there was way too much product hitting the market than could be sold. And so, basically cultivators were working for the state at that point. They were
Hmm.
spending money to stay in business and it just didn't make any sense because there wasn't enough retail shelving space to fit all the products, right?
Oh, wow.
So as they went out of business, more retail opened, and then a lot of those cultivations that shut down got eaten up in the M&A phase. So
Mm.
they came back on market. So now we're back to this imbalance.
So did online sales come into play in that process?
So online sales exist where a dispensary can, or have deliveries
Oh, okay.
set up. There's another issue, though, of course, which I think maybe you're identifying, which is the hemp, the THC derived hemp market, where they're
Oh,
mailing
right, right.
illegal cannabis, basically, federally quasi legal under the Farm Bill cannabis that was grown from hemp, something that's called Delta 8 or THCA. There's all this. I'm not an expert on it, but I am frustrated by it because I've spent a lot of time pushing forward on the legal market only to be undermined by this hemp market. And so we see these beverages in Walmart,
Oh, right, right. Yeah.
and that's all hemp or THCA product. And, my own conspiratorial view of that, to be honest, is that it's a test run, a trial run by larger mega corporations to see how how moms with their soccer moms with their kids handle having cannabis sold where they shop for groceries.
Ah, right,
A
right,
lot of the only way these beverages get to market is with the help of Big Bev. We don't have
right.
um, the infrastructure to get these drinks to market the way they are.
Well, do they do anything? Do
Yeah, they get you high.
they do get you high? Okay.
It's
So,
hemp derived psychoactive THC. How they do that, I'm not sure because it's all 0.3% THC, but they have ways of extracting enough that it dry weight, sure it qualifies, but then they put enough in it that it's psychoactive. And then this THCA thing, THCA is basically before you light it on fire, it doesn't have enough THC, but then once you light it, it does. So it's this
oh,
total
interesting.
loophole.
Oh, wow. Oh, so people buy it basically dry or whatever in the legal form, and then they burn it basically. And
I
it's
don't understand it, to be honest.
well,
The
and then
smart
there's
people
the
didn't do it.
whole what CBD oil side.
CBD is separate. Yeah, CBD, that's a more of a medicine that is hemp derived, but they are kind of parallel in that this hemp beverage market is hemp based and CBD is largely hemp based, but not always, right? There is CBD that does have THC in it as a medicine, right? There's all kinds of
Right.
compounds in the cannabis that our endocannabinoid system is made to interact with. I'm not a scientist. I'm a real estate guy. I don't want to get too far
Yeah,
out of my
right, right.
lane.
Yeah,
But the THC, um, the CBD, and all the other compounds, the terpenes, and they got all these names, and they all do something different to the body, right? Whether it's psychoactive or medicinal. Um, it's about
yeah.
probably as much as I should say about that.
Well, no, that's plenty for, I think, our audience. Yeah, we can't go into too much detail there because actually that's probably more for the retailers to figure out how to sell that to the public.
Yeah,
So,
right.
well, this is very interesting to me that the market has changed so drastically. So, what do you think is going to happen in the future here?
Oh, I don't know. I have so many thoughts about it. I could go on for an hour with my views, but you know, we need change in the state and we need change at the federal level. I am encouraged by Newsom's, lumping hemp in with cannabis ordinances and with reducing the excise back to 15%. But, this whole, I don't know what you know about the discussion that's been going on with the cannabis excise,
I don't. Yeah.
but they just reduced it back down to 15 after having hiked it back up to 19 in July. And really, we shouldn't even be at 15. It's hurting the industry. It's hurting these operators and these mom and pops, and it's
Right.
boldening cartels and illegal operators because, the consumer doesn't know. The consumer
Right.
says, well, should I go spend $30 over here or 100 over here?
Right.
All they know is cannabis is legal and they can't get busted. They don't realize how unsafe it is, the product they're getting from an illegal dispensary, and they don't even know that they're at an illegal dispensary
Oh,
most of the
wow.
time.
Oh, that's interesting. So, is the state cracking down on illegal?
No, no,
No.
they like to say they are, and they have here and there, but it's not widespread. The illegal market is healthier than it's ever been, and it's because of all of these states making it legal at the state level, but not doing enough to enforce the laws.
Oh, interesting. So I assume that not only is California's cannabis world in trouble, but other states are in the same
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. And so in cannabis, we talk about mature markets and emerging markets.
Ah,
California is a mature market. Okay. We've been around a while. We're mature.
yeah,
Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Michigan, Massachusetts. These are all mature markets.
right,
Emerging markets, New York, New Jersey, although Jersey's starting to become more mature, Kentucky, Missouri, Minnesota, Ohio's rec, Pennsylvania's going to become rec soon. Florida could still count as an emerging market. But, these are the new states. And so we see the same cycle in
ah,
each state where there's a boom and there's a rush to market, to brand yourself within the industry and to the consumer. And then inevitably there's a bust.
ah,
It has to do with federal licensure or the scheduling.
yeah,
And the difficulty of becoming operational in any given state takes a very long time. I'm sure your audience is very familiar with the CUP, conditional use permit, which, might take you 6 months. Right? You'd be upset if it were 7, 8, 9 months to get a
right.
CUP approval in commercial real estate. Well, in cannabis, if I had an entitlement to get approved in 9 months, I'd be doing flips, bro. I'd be so happy, man. It takes
Wow.
years for these guys to become operational while paying premium rents. So it's extremely prohibitive to enter
Yeah.
the market. Capital's dried up because investors don't want to invest in this industry anymore because they've taken a shellacking. But there is lots of opportunity for investors because the industry's more mature now, so it is making better decisions on its real estate, on its insurance, on its marketing, all across the board. And I've been waving my arms to investors for a couple years now about the amazing opportunity that exists in cannabis, even in mature markets. But it's hard to get them to see it because they've all lost so much money when they bet early on. So
Oh, I see. So what's happening in the banking world? I know cannabis was having difficulty getting banked early on. Is that all changed?
no,
No.
to some
Okay.
degree, to some degree, there are more banks that are banking now, even FDIC and NCUA banks, and we have great relationships with those banks. But it's only like 100. I know some have told me 150. It was 5 or 10 before, right?
Yeah.
And technically, these banks are allowed with what was referred to, I believe, as the Cole memo. I think that's the right memo. There was a memo that went out
And that said
somewhere
they could
around the
do
middle
this. Yeah.
teens that told banks, hey, you can do this, but you got to have all this auditing in place, la, 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 la. And a lot of banks just didn't want to do it. Banks are generally conservative in
Right.
general. Um, so there are more and more banks that are doing this work, but they're really oftentimes just telling you they'll do the work as opposed to actually doing it.
Oh,
Whether or not they're banking versus lending, and whether that lending's on real estate versus business ops, it's all a little bit of this and a little bit of that. There's
yeah.
legislation at the federal level called safe banking, or now safer banking, that keeps coming up almost every year and then failing. But what we really need is some level of action at the federal level. If you don't know, and if your listeners don't know, I urge you to look up IRS tax code 280E. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. 280E. Okay.
So it's an interesting story and a law that I think, or a tax code that I think we would all support in general. But it basically prohibits any operator of a Schedule 1 or 2 illicit substance from being able to write off their expenses beyond cost of goods sold. Okay. So
Wow.
cannabis is a Schedule 1 narcotic, which is a joke.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's subjected to 280E. So they already are dealing with massive taxation at the state level and very slim profit margins. Whatever
Right.
profit margin they do realize essentially is supposed to be just siphoned up now by the federal government, because they're being taxed at around 70%
Whoa.
by the federal government
Wow.
because of 280E. Rescheduling does away with that because it would go to Schedule 3. But the
Ah,
big question then is, what are they going to replace it with? We guess that the federal government's going to create its own excise, but that'll probably be 5 or 10% and whatever. That'll be way better than what we're dealing with now. It still won't solve bankruptcy. It still won't create interstate commerce or open up banking, but it will create a different level playing field for operators. Now the DEA can do more research. The 280E goes away. More banks will probably ease their ability to bank and lend, right? Just because it's Schedule 3, not Schedule 1. So I am encouraged by that, but it's not my preferred path. I prefer, something, there's this bill that's been introduced called the States Act, and now it's called States 2.0, which does what I've been clamoring for as a consultant to the space for years, which basically creates carve outs for legal operators from Schedule 1 prohibition style regulations, which is what we need. Because honestly, we need the DEA to go after the cartels. We need the DEA to go after the illegal operators, to team up with the states and say, hey, you legal state operators, you're good. Do what you're going to do. Interstate commerce is fine. Banking's fine. File bankruptcy. Behave like a normal business. But you guys that aren't, we're busting your butts. And we're going to do it swiftly, and you're going to pay the consequence. That's what I'd like to see.
and the current administration isn't taking hold of this idea?
The current administration is really pushing rescheduling, which was started under Biden, but the DEA under Biden dragged its feet, kicked the can, really kind of poisoned the process. Trump has been carrying that mantle forward. It's one thing that we've seen from Biden to Trump that has really been congruent, is this kind of push for cannabis. And
Yeah.
as a consultant to the space, I read the tea leaves. And I was saying in January, personally, that within the next 12 to 24 months, we would see something happen at the federal level. Something. At the very least, rescheduling. Now, people in
Yeah.
the industry will tell you they want descheduling, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I think within the next now 12 to, I don't know, 16 months, we'll see um, rescheduling at the very least.
Yeah.
And so I, as a, father and husband and an investor, started making bets in April on cannabis stocks.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
go and look at what's happened to cannabis stocks since April, when Trump has started talking about descheduling and making it, or rescheduling rather, and making this more of a prominent conversation. because he's been tweeting about it, he's been talking about it, and he's pushing his people to move in that direction. Unfortunately, there's so much going on in the world that cannabis is taking a little bit more of a back seat than we would want.
Well, he's got the big um, boat issues coming out of Venezuela, but I don't think that's affecting the cannabis world, probably.
No, no, but there's Russia, there's Israel and
Yeah.
Hamas, there's inflation, there's so much stuff going on, and love him or hate him, Trump has brought in disruptors at every part of his administration, which I kind of like,
Right,
because I
right,
think the federal government needs that jolt. Now, whether it's a jolt in a direction that you agree with or not, that's a whole nother discussion. But it just seems like he's creating so much upheaval in
right.
every area of his cabinet that it's going to be hard for cannabis to get what it
Mm,
needs. But I can tell you, I've heard really good, rumors from people that would know about conversations that are happening in back rooms, right? Something's happening. Something's happening. The Bev market that I indicated earlier,
right.
that's a
Yeah.
test run.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah.
test run in
Okay.
my view,
Right,
in
right.
my opinion. Let's see how the public deals
Yeah.
with having these drinks being sold at Walmart where moms are shopping with their kids,
Right,
right?
right,
And
right.
writing and all this. And you're seeing them in nightclubs, you're seeing these beverages in states that aren't even
Ah,
on the cannabis map selling psychoactive hemp derived THC drinks in nightclubs with alcohol and food. And we don't have any licensure that allows that yet. You
oh,
cannot
interesting.
sell cannabis where alcohol is. But where these hemp THC drinks are, they're being sold with alcohol next to them. It's insane.
Oh, interesting.
So I see it as a test run. I see it as another indicator that something's happening at the federal level. I could be wrong, but that's my
Well,
reading.
all right. Well, I think we're going to have to reconvene in early next year and just see how things are changing.
I'm down.
All right. Well, let's talk about that in the springtime, see if the changes have come about or not, or where the industry is going at that point. That'd be fun.
That would be fun. I'd love to revisit it. I mean, I want to know if I'm right or wrong. To be honest, I somewhere around 2021, I stopped getting excited about rumors of federal change, but this year I got excited again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we got through the pandemic. There was a bunch of other things going on, so I can see where that delayed things. And, Biden was probably not pushing things through very quickly. So, anyway, well, let's reconvene in March and see what's going on.
Let's do it. I'd love
All
to do
right.
that.
Well, great to have you, Jason. And where can people get a hold of you?
Well, I mean, as you can see, I got two brands here. WeCann is the one that we founded, and the website's there, wecann.biz. And then we merged with Cannabis Real Estate Consultants back in 2022. And you can find us at crec.us. It's the same company. We merged with this company, and so now we have these two brands. I know it can get a little confusing. My email, jason@wecann.biz. Or yeah, you can send me a message on the website. My phone number's on there, and I'm on LinkedIn. Love to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. I've got a lot of great connections in and around the cannabis industry and commercial real estate. I think that's where we met, even. I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, no, it'd be great to see what's going on in the world again here very soon. So great to have you, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.